The anime begins on a dark cloudy night. It isn't like every other night, as the dark moon takes the life of a very strong human Tomoki Kanata. A lady stabs him with a knife repeatedly while trying to ensure that he dies. Tomoki thinks about the life he has lived before that moment. He admits that his name doesn't matter at that point, but he knows that that night is going to be the last day of his life. The young lady insists that she will kill him. She calls him his name and tells him he will die. No one gets stabbed that way without knocking on the door of the heavens, and even Tomoki doesn't survive it. However, it is a shock for him when he opens his eyes and realizes that he is alive, but he is no longer alive as a human. It is day 1 of Tomoki's reborn, and as he opens his eyes, the first thing he sees is a green ugly animal, while a goblin of which he will be too. The older goblin looks at him and thinks about the name to give him. He had once named another goblin born on that day Gobkichi, so he can't give Tomoki that same name, and as a result he gives him the name Gobru. Tomoki, well now Gobru, is so disappointed. Why will the man give him such a low-effort name? He can't even move his body or legs, but all he knows is that he is still alive at the moment, and if it is a second chance at life he will gladly accept it. He closes his eyes again and he wakes up the following day, which is his second day of reborn. He looks around him and sees several green, ugly-looking kids. I wonder why he condemned them without realizing that he looks just like them. When he looks at his hands, he confirms his suspicions that he is just like them. Does he mean he has been reborn as a goblin? That reality causes him nothing more than tears. He screams because he is weak and helpless in that state that he is. Eventually his tears dry up. Third day he wakes up stronger. He can now walk and he confirms that goblins really grew up early. The elder goblin returns and gives them a meal, then tells them that will be the last meal he will be offering to them, and from the next day they need to track down their meals themselves. To take the elevated off the outside, Gobru walks out of the cave and sees the sun. To be honest, it is really a pleasure to be alive. Although he may not have the type of life he wanted and the kind of life he lived before, it is a second chance at life and he promises himself that this time he will survive. He doesn't even know how to find food and he sees that the sun and the atmosphere look different. It isn't the kind of life he is used to, and he needs a partner to navigate it. He looks at his back and he sees another goblin Gobkichi. He calls Gobkichi and asks him if he is also trying to look for food. He decides to partner with Gobkichi so they can find food together, not for any other reason, but for him to figure out how the world really works now. They target a rabbit and Gobkichi chases the rabbit while he jumps from the top of the tree and kills the rabbit. He realizes that his technique with Gobkichi may not be as useless as he thought it would be. A chase and kill game will really make food easier for him. Before he could catch his breath, Gobkichi went to the rabbit to eat it. He gets pissed at him and hits him, telling him that he doesn't have the right to eat the meal they caught together alone. After teaching Gobkichi a lesson, he goes to the rabbit and takes its horn. Immediately he gets a notification that he has gotten a small rabbit horn. He wonders if he would be able to use the horn as a weapon for his next catch. He shares the meal with Gobkichi, who eats happily with tears in his eyes. The next day he goes to hunt with Gobkichi. After Gobkichi had chased the rabbit, he jumped from the tree and stabbed the rabbit with the horn he had taken the day before. That works really great for him as the rabbit died at the first attack. He further takes the horn of the rabbit and he gets another notification that he has gotten a medium horn. He shares the meal with Gobkichi, and while watching him eat, he gets a notification that he has gotten the skill named Escape. He connects that to his first life, realizing that just as in his first life, he has the magic skill called Absorption. With Absorption, he could eat anything and he wouldn't get hurt. Instead, he would get all the skills and powers that the animal he has eaten. He is glad because it will be better to use the skills here. After all, several monsters are lurking around and he can actually get points and skills from them. He returns to his cave with Gobkichi to talk about the rabbit horn they had gotten that day, and they eats. One of their fellow goblin Gobmi, a female goblin, comes to meet them, shocked that they are haunted the horn rabbit. She tells Gobru that he is awesome and the last she heard about rabbit horns. It is impossible for them to haunt the horn rabbit because they may get injured. She tells him he is extraordinary and Gobkichi gets jealous and asks if she thinks he is the same, but she says no. Trying to chase her away, Gobru invited Gobmi to their next hunting. Unfortunately, rain falls the next day, which is day 5, and he couldn't go hunting. 6th day, he moves to explore the material and takes a metal to carve as a weapon. During that encounter he sees some women who have been held captive, and for reasons best known to him, he feels pain on their behalf. The next day, day 7, he starts causing his weapon from the metal. As he does that, the elder goblin who had given him a low effort comes to meet him, appreciating his great ability and telling him that if he continues like that, he may level up fast. He asks if he knows his present level and tells him to tap his head to find out. When he taps his head, he sees he is in level 86. The elder informs him that if he enters level 100, he will be able to get to evolve Hobgoblin, but just a few goblins do that within that short period of time. While walking away, the elder informs them that the following day the older goblins who are hobgoblins will return from their trip to the city to get food, and he is excited to see what they will bring. On the 8th day, Gore's newest friend Gobme helps him hunt down the crimson snakes of the forest. With the strategy of attacking from all sides, Gobme first launches a rock at the snakes from above a tree, followed by Kikuchi, who uses a wooden baton to hit the approaching snakes. With Gobkichi fighting as a forward, Gobme fighting as their backup, and Gore fighting in the mid-range, the group easily hunts down snakes, and even a bunch of raccoons. After the hunt is over, the 3 goblins scale the snake skins down immediately and enjoy the fresh delicacy that compares to literal heavens. Gobme begins crying as she has never eaten anything else before, except the worms offered by the elder, so she becomes greatly grateful to Gore for letting her be on his crew. Gore takes a bite of the snake, which prompts the system to notify him that he has unlocked 5 new skills, including thermography, poison, poison resistance, locate, and the evil eye. Having acquired these skills, Gore realizes that the snake must have been a monster of a high level, which makes him happy that he managed to kill. Gobkichi politely asks Gore to let him eat the snake's head. However, Gore doesn't let him even touch it, claiming that the head is poisonous, and he proceeds to eat it himself. For the next 2 days, Gore keeps on doing his usual hunting and prepares more of his hunting gear with the team. They become so confident in their abilities that they make the mistake of exploring caves. Thankfully for them, they manage to escape just in time from a swarm of enraged bats. Just before escaping the cave, Gobkichi showcases his new shield and uses it as a tank to protect the main swordsman in their party. Gore, who begins slashing down the bats, showcasing his skills, and then uses his evil eye ability, prompting all of the bats to immobilize in mid-air. Because of their foolish bravery, they luckily exterminate the entire bat cave and begin to eat them as well. Their appetite is out of this world, literally. By eating the bats, Gore unlocks new sets of abilities called Echolocation, Vamp Up, and Vanphilia, so he becomes satisfied with the outcome of today's hunting. The other goblins in Gore's home start growing jealous, seeing the 3 enjoy such delicacies when they are barely surviving by eating worms, yet they fail to come up with the courage to ask Gore for some spare food and keep watching as their mouths keep on drooling. On the 12th night, the 6 jealous goblins from before decide to attack Gore when he is asleep, because if he dies then they will get all of his food, right? Wrong, that's not how it works. Who's going to provide the food if the supplier is dead? Goblins are stupid. What can you do about it? Anyway, Gore doesn't get beaten though, as he senses their evil intents using his search skill and single-handedly defeats all 6 of them. Gobme, who wakes up by the sudden commitment, realizes what's going on. So she too joins Gore and tries to even take one of her brethren's lives. Thankfully, Gore stops her in time and calms her down, saying that they have already learned their lesson. The next day, Gore and his team attack an orc who is just minding his own business and brutally eliminate him, which results in him learning orc skills like libido, orc language, and detecting and analyzing. Right after, they go hunting again, and this time Gore offers all of the food to the goblin house in order to get them on his side. After helping out the helpless in this new world, Gore gets a weird sense of satisfaction and gets proper sleep for the first time. However, the system doesn't let him sleep, notifying him in mid-sleep that he is evolving into a new form called Hobgoblin. Because of this evolution, Gore gets gifted with the blessing of the Grand God of Demise and Origin. However, he doesn't notice the writing on the screen and continues sleeping. Because of this evolution, when he wakes up the next morning not knowing what has happened, he finds himself looking way taller than before and also discovers Gobkichi to have also evolved into his Hobgoblin form. Seeing that both of them are maturing to adulthood in just 14 days, even the elder becomes amazed and wonders how they managed to rank up that much in such a short amount of time. Gore proposes to Gobkichi that they go out hunting to test out how strong they have become because of their transformation. However, Gobkichi comes up with a better idea and challenges Gore in a duel to test their new strengths. Both goblins smash their fists towards each other with their full strength, but Gore comes at the top as he seems to have the better edge in terms of power. As a wolf roars in the far distance, Gore senses trouble and asks Gobme to fetch them the crossbow they had made the other day. It was revealed that a pack of wolves are hunting down wild rabbits nearby, and they don't just stop there, they even go on to devour many orcs. However, Gore doesn't feel threatened by the wolves. Rather, he decides to make them his next target to test out how truly strong he has become overnight. Instructing Dabmi to use the crossbow to shoot down the leader of the wolf pack, Gore manages to distract the wolves towards him, and Dabkichi they takes down every single one of the wolves, one after another, using perfect teamwork. After a few minutes, the two brothers manage to take down all of the wolves without getting a scratch. The leader of the wolf pack gets up with the undying resolve to take down the guy who has killed all of his brethren, but because it is not a main character, it fails to stand a chance against Gore, who devours it and once again attains a bunch of skills, including military leadership. Afterward, Gore brings all of the dead wolves back to the den, where he strictly instructs the other goblins to hunt the same amount of monsters that he has been single-handedly killing in a day to make sure they don't keep on freeloading. But because neither of them possesses any hunting skills, they beg Gore to teach them how to fight like him. After a bit of begging, Gore decides to teach everyone how to hunt and make weapons, gaining all of their support and instantly becoming all of the goblins' leaders. In a few days of undergoing basic training, all of the goblins became moderately trained, but most importantly Dabmi evolves into a fine-looking lady, ready to be cooked by the Riz Lord Gore. The story continues on day 17. All the human women that were captive took their own life, and Gore had a quiet memorial for them with Elder Goblin Gobji. We then move on to day 24, and Gore was training the other goblins. In the meantime, he had also been eating every promising enemy he could find and learned a lot of new abilities. Just then, another group of goblins begins approaching. Gore prepares to protect everyone against them, but Gobji stops them and explains that they are their raiders. Gore then shocked to hear that they're also the fathers of Gore's generation of goblins. The raiders have captured another group of human women, and the evil goblins are glad since their last batch took their own lives. It turns out that goblin DNA is so strong that when they meet with other species, it still results in goblin children. Gore can understand the instinct to reproduce, but that doesn't mean he's okay with what's going on. He requests that he be the one to look after the human women, but this just upsets the raiders. Gore's generation of goblins is ready to stand up for him, but this just begins to divide the two groups. Just then two goblin girls arrive to casually tell the two sides to stop getting themselves into a civil war. They are Hobsato and the mage Hobse. These genius girls come up with a brilliant idea to have the leaders of both generations fight, and the winner decides what the village will do from now on. The raider wants to teach Gore a lesson, and Gore agrees to fight as well. The fight ends very quickly as Gore uses some kind of mysterious string. The others can't understand how he did it, so Gore explains that it just comes out of his body. He then thinks about how its ability he learned that allows him to produce spider silk, and he learned that after eating a demon spider. The girls are amazed that someone like him was born while they were gone, and Gore announces his new official status as leader of the village. He asks if anyone has a problem with that, but no one decides to stand up against him. Gore then tells the humans that he ordered everyone to keep their hands off of them. He won't do anything either, and they will find the time to send them back to a human village. The girls wonder if they will have to do anything, and we learn that Gore wasn't being completely selfless with his actions. He wants the knowledge of the humans. Gore asked them some questions and learned that these girls were part of a traveling business when the goblins attacked them. All the men were slaughtered, and these 5 girls were the only survivors. On day 28, Gore is surprised to see that the girls seemed happy. He realizes that they haven't gotten over everything, they're just having a positive attitude since it will make things easier. Gore cooked for them, hoping that it would help. Among the girls were 2 sisters that are cooks as well as tailors. The one with glasses is an alchemist, and the absent-minded girls an appraiser and a smith. As for the redhead, she is a rookie warrior, so he decides to have her join their training later. Gore then trained everyone hard and insulted them when they got tired. For the next few days he focused on group exercises instead of hunting, and he beat into them the new rules he set for the group. Day 31 was rainy, so Gore and Dabkichi did some really intense sparring as everyone watched in amazement. That night, Gore sensed that a group of goblins were about to break his rule regarding the human women. Gore sliced right through one of the goblins and restrained the others. He reminds them of the rules he set and punishes one of them for talking back to him. Gore apologizes to the women, and the redhead cries in his arms. The other goblins arrive, so Gore orders Dabkichi to take the restrained goblins outside. He also has Gobmi gather the other goblins so they can watch what he's about to do. Outside, Gore sends a message to the others by using these guys as an example. He beats them relentlessly and makes sure that everyone really understands their village rules. Everyone gets the message loud and clear, so Gore dismisses them. Gore stopped just short of ending their lives, which meant that Hobkin, who got the worst of the punishment, passed away the next morning. On day 32, Gober's team uses their amazing teamwork once again to take down a tri-horned horse. It was pretty tough, but there's just meant that he also received a ton of new abilities. Tri-burst is one of them, and it amazingly allows him to deal 3 blows with just 1 strike. That night, the redhead goes to sleep in Gober's bed and he realizes that the incident from the night before must have traumatized her. Gober comforts her and allows her to spend the night with him. However, when he wakes up, Gober finds that Gobmy joined them as well. That day they also find that the female goblin named Gabby evolved into a hobgoblin as well. Overall, things have been going pretty smoothly. Gabmy runs the ranged unit and Dobkichi in charge of their armed forces, Hobsato handles the mobility-oriented force, and Gabby has taken over rear support, which focuses on doing chores. Hobsei would act as the captain of their mage force, but right now she's the only mage in their village. For the rest of this day, Gober leaves the training to the captain so he could head deep into the forest to hunt a variety of prey. Gober tries out some demise magic and shocked to see just how powerful it is, as he easily destroys one of the powerful tri-horns with 1 attack. Gober will only realize after this that the magic made him overconfident as he went into the northern forest. There he finds a strange area with a ton of blood and he remembers something that Gabji told all the goblins. Gabji warned them to never go into the northern forest for any reason. Inside, there is a terrifying crimson monster called the Red Bear. This is where Gober finds himself now, and he sees that this monster easily tore through a tri-horn. The tri-horn's armor was incredibly difficult for them to pierce earlier, but it was nothing for this bear. Just then, the Red Bear appears and Gober acknowledges that a normal person would probably try to run away. Gober is not a normal person though. He wants to fight it, beat it, and eat it to see what kind of abilities he will get. Gober plans to use every weapon in his arsenal, so he starts off by using Phase 1 demise magic. Back at the village, Gabmy becomes concerned that she hasn't seen Gober in a while. The others haven't seen him either, so this just makes her more worried. Back with Gober, he is shocked when the Red Bear sacrifices his right arm to defend against his demise spell. The bear unleashes a flurry of attacks and Gober can tell that the refined skill armor he received from the Trihorn won't be able to protect him. Gober must go on the offensive, so he goes to attack the bear's head. He is once again shocked though when his weapon is unable to pierce its skull and the bear sends him flying. Gober covers the bear in string, but it breaks free and shockingly uses a crazy strong fire breath attack. The forest is covered in fire and Gober must heal his wounds. The attack was very concerning since Gober had never seen or even heard of a fire-breathing bear in his past life. This is a very dangerous opponent, so Gober realizes that he will just have to be willing to take some damage to win. Gober moves in for another attack and protects himself from the fire breath. The beast is pretty tough on the outside, but Gober cleverly uses the fire breath attack against the bear and he pierces it right through its mouth. Gober is pleased with himself, but he is shocked to find that it wasn't enough. The ferocious bear knocks him back, and Gober does his best to limit the damage he takes. Gober still took a lot of damage from the incredibly powerful attack, so he concedes that this round was a draw. His blade is still inside the bear's mouth, so at least it won't be able to use its fire breath anymore. This crazy strong bear still shows no sign of collapsing, but Gober is just one attack away from losing his life. Gober had a huge disadvantage, but this guy is crazy as he proclaims that it would just make his meal taste even better. Gober goes in for more fighting and manages to deal some damage. It's not enough, so he tells the bear that he wants to eat him already and he moves in for another attack, but we see that he loses an arm. On day 34, Gober has finally won the crazy battle, but he barely survived. Gober finally gets to eat the bear, and he receives a ton of powerful traits. Among them are heavy damage and overpowering strength. Gober passes out soon after, but we once again see that he has exceeded his level values and met all conditions. This now allows him to evolve into a rare ogre species. His conscience is fading away, so Gober simply selects yes without reading. On day 35, Gober continues to eat the bear and gains even more incredibly powerful traits. He reaches for his knife, which seems much smaller than before, and Gober is shocked to realize that he has become an ogre. Gober returns to the village, but everyone is terrified of him and they fear that they are under attack. They prepare to run as they wonder why the ogre is smiling at them and they wish the Gober was there to save them. Luckily Gobmy recognizes him, but instead of being surprised by his evolution, she is mad at him for being gone for so long. She just ends up hurting herself, but she still scores Gober. She is upset that he lost his arm, but the others are all amazed that he took down the Red Bear. Gabji is most shocked of all as he points out that Gober was able to defeat the Master of the Northern Woods just 1 month after he was born. Everyone had questions for him, but Gober was just glad that he survived and was able to make it to his new home in his new world. The story continues. We see everyone is still amazed by Gore's evolution as he has gotten much bigger and stronger looking. Gore goes to check on the human women, but he is followed closely by Gourmet and the redhead for some reason. As expected, the humans are terrified of him, but he manages to calm them down by explaining that it's him. Gourmet though seems upset about something as she pinches his leg. The blacksmith is disappointed to see that he wrecked the X that she made him, but reveals that she has made her knife using a special spirit stone. Gore praises her, but finds that the other girls have started to pinch him even harder. The twins need help with their cooking duties, so Gore explains that he will assign a few goblins to help them out. Gore is impressed that they have gotten used to being around goblins so quickly, so he tells them that they would make great wives. He wonders if they want to be his wives, and they call him a sly dog. Gore is pleased by their smile, but once again the redhead and Gourmet get more upset. Gore then finds that the alchemist has made poison. Originally it was for self-defense, but now that there is a goblin she can trust like Gore, she has no use for it. Gore picks her up and admires her smile as well, but he could instantly feel the murderous intent coming from the other girls. Gore spent all his time cheering up the girls, but now his spirit is exhausted. On day 36, Gore realized that he can no longer train with the others. He has become so powerful that regular goblins were ending up in critical condition from even his lightest punches. Even Gobkichi's armor couldn't withstand them, as Gore heals a near-dead goblin and he wonders what's wrong with Gobkichi. Gobkichi says it's nothing as he goes to hunt, but Gore can tell that something's wrong. Aside from that, Gore has started to notice that Hobsato and Gourmet has started hunting together. The red-headed woman is training by herself and Gourmet is continuing her hobby of mining for spirit stones. As for Gore, we see that he can still use his missing arm like it's slime, thanks to the fact that he had a slime before. Gore wonders if Gobkichi will be okay, but Hobsei points out that it depends on how much effort Gobkichi puts in. The two argue as Gore wishes Hobsei would give him back his book, and he thinks about how he was finally able to have a relaxing day. On day 37, Gabi panics as she found some little creature in really bad shape. Gore does his best to heal her, but she's losing too much blood, so he decides that he will have to get some blood-producing medicine from the alchemist. Luckily it works, so they explain who they are to the thing they call a carbuncle. The carbuncle introduces herself as Returner and reveals that she was attacked by humans. The gem on her head is a high-class material, so its price is set to be as high as 1 billion gold. Returner asks that they lend her their power and begs them to get rid of the humans that attacked her. Gore is familiar with the history of the carbuncles. Their master named Velvet was a famous legendary magician and he created them to watch over his secret treasure den. Returner explains that when she was attacked, her core was broken so her lifespan was shortened. In the secret treasure room lies legendary class items the Velvet collected throughout his entire life. Returner explains that her master hates humans. He would prefer that the goblins take all the treasure, rather than the adventurer humans. They can have everything, so Gore declares that they will go. The blacksmith girl gives him his new dagger, but he tells the frightened girls not to worry as he won't blatantly eliminate the humans. His job is just to get them to leave, but warns that he might have to use some force if they don't listen. They then go through the whole Gabi made, as is the way to the treasure room. Gore decides to try to persuade the humans to leave, so he tells the others to hide. He finds the adventurers who are searching for their treasure room, but they think that he is just another monster that they need to defeat. They attack him but are quickly shocked when he is able to detect the presence of their invisible assassin. Gore explains to them that this is someone's house and what they're doing is robbery and murder. It's clear that they don't have any guilty either, so Gore determines that they are beyond saving. The stupid humans are just shocked that an ogre can speak English so well, and Gore says that luckily for them, he also has a good heart. They refuse to listen as they attack him instead, but Gore just easily dodges it all and once again tells them to leave. They don't listen, so Gore analyzes the situation. The humans have 3 in their backline. They're using a lot of high-class magic items. Unfortunately for them, it's pretty clear to Gore that they're relying too much on level enhancement to increase their fighting strength. This doesn't do much for them since their fighting technique itself is pitiful, and Gore is easily able to beat them up. Just then one mage celebrates as he thinks he just blew Gore's head off. They are of course shocked though when it becomes clear that his attack just angered Gore. He has allowed them to live up to this point, but Gore was done being nice. The humans wet themselves as they realize that their level 3 magic spell did nothing. Gore declares that the time for being nice is over. He signals to the others to attack and they spring into action. Gore takes out his blade and tells the humans to regret not leaving when he gave him the chance. Afterwards, Gore revealed that they eliminated the adventurers and ate them. This gives Gobru a bunch of their traits, including Assassin, High Wizard, and Enchanter. That isn't all though, as there were some pretty high-level adventures among them and they had some pretty good loot. There's a rare ring and item storage bag with a bunch of items in it, so Gobru just eats those too. Among other things, this allows Gobru to summon a cheat item box that can store an incredible amount of items. They then head to the treasure room where Returner thanks them. She explains that her master Velvet is great with spirits, which is why a ton of spirit stones can be mined there. She wishes good health to Gobru as they say goodbye and she vanishes. It's a pretty sad moment, so Gobru would just eats the gem from her head that she left behind. The slick Gobkichi wonders if Gabi is okay and she says that she is fine. They have a moment of silence for Returner and afterwards Gobru decides that they will take all the treasure and split it amongst themselves. Gobru marvels at his item box because it still has a lot of space even after shoving all the treasure into it. Gobru doesn't like the idea of just leaving Velvet's body there, so he cremates it. Surprisingly, this leaves some kind of gauntlet. Gobru ties it on and it's done when this thing attaches itself to him and becomes his new arm. The others are amazed to see it and Gobru shows what it can do as it feels just like his own arm. When they leave, Gobru decides to have a party to celebrate the successful mission. On day 38, Gobru appraises all the loots got with the blacksmith and finds that everything is insanely rare and powerful. On day 39, Gobru explains that he gave the 10 hobgoblins in their group some magical items. As for himself, Gobru chose to take the Vermilion Spear. That along with 2 other items he chose, means that he now has 3 legendary class artifacts. Legendary class is second only to Phantasm class and item ranks, and it is said that the holder can rule entire countries with just one of them. Later that day they go hunt for ingredients for some bear soup and Gobru glad to see how strong everyone is getting. On day 40, Gobru decided to have a tournament to see who would be the leader of the hobgoblins, not including himself. He also established a mercenary group. On day 41, Gobru goes in search of monsters he has never seen before. The first one he found was a golden spider that dropped some valuable looking items. Eating them allows them to now make gold string that he is sure he will be able to make accessories out of. The next animal was some red deer, but eating just one of them didn't give him any traits. Further exploring leads Gobru to a great tree. He explains that in this world there exists a species called dryads. According to Gobji, they tempt males from other intelligent species and use them as their own nutrition. Dryads are only females and they are so beautiful that men are unable to hold back after looking at them. The reason Gobru is explaining this is because one of these dryads has appeared before him. She admires Gobru's huge muscles and tells him that she would just like to talk. Gobru struggles to control himself in the face of her charm, but he must, otherwise she will use him as nutrition. He has to avoid that at all costs, and he can't let his guard down. Gobru decides that he must use the ability he has never used before called libido. After taking 5 hours to eat the dryad, Gobru earns a trait called Dryad's Blessing. The dryad is still alive somehow, so she tells Gobru to return soon, but he just says that he will if he feels like it. Afterwards, Gobru takes a bath in the lake and it's soon surrounded by lizard men. He declares that today he is invincible, so Gobru makes quick work of them and even takes out another monster for good measure. On day 42, Gobru finds that 2 goblins have an aptitude for magic. They immediately become part of Hobsei's platoon, but her devious-looking smile worries Gobru. Later that day, Gobru learns how to enchant his weapon, but this seems to upset the blacksmith girl. On day 43, Gabi is angry at her boy, but no one explains to them why, and they just tell him to use his head. The redhead is just as angry and the twin cook seems upset as well as they try to feed him poison food. The alchemist is surprised that someone as perceptive as Gobru hasn't noticed, and reveals that the girls are upset because they are jealous. They know that he had a date with someone, and he is shocked to hear that he has kiss marks on his neck. Gobru had no idea, and he curses Dryad for doing it on purpose. Gobru tries to think about his next course of action, but he is shocked when the alchemist reveals that she feels the same way and gives him a kiss. She hopes that he accepts her feelings, but Gobru didn't expect this at all from her. He thinks about how it does make him happy, but Gobmi arrives furious. She wants Gobru to treat her the same way, and all the human girls arrive to say the same thing. Outside the room, Gabi explained that Gobru has sealed it off so they can take care of some work and Gobru earns a lot more traits. The story continues. We see Gobru senses that someone is approaching and finds that it's a group of noble elves. Humans are about to attack them to get their treasure, so they have come to ask for the goblins' help. This elves guy has a bad attitude, but they're offering to give them an entire couple months of food for their village. Gabji thinks it's a good offer, but Gobru surprisingly refuses. He doesn't care about the situation, he just wants him to be more sincere when asking for help. The guy prepares to attack Gourmet, but Gourmet strikes fear into their very souls with one terrifying glare. Gourmet then warns him to tell his hidden archers to lower their bows. They try to shoot him instead, but they have no chance of hurting Gourmet. The elf has them stop attacking and Gourmet explains that he's rejecting his offer because he's simply not in a good mood. However, the goblins live in this forest as well. If the humans are going to cause problems, then he wouldn't be against teaming up. Gourmet would then amazes everyone as he uses his legendary weapon to threaten all the elves at once. Gourmet doesn't even really understand fully how it works, but if he stabs something with it, he's able to produce a limitless amount of spears that can extend 100 meters out. The elves run away terrified, so Gourmet hopes he doesn't see them again for a while. On day 45, Gourmet hunts down 20 gray slime. Eating their cores gives them a bunch of abilities, including fluid regeneration and auto-replication. Gourmet gives auto-replication a try and finds that he can create a tiny version of himself from his blood. He can even see himself from this thing, which means that they have linked senses. This gives our main character Gourmet a brilliant idea. On day 46, he has the girls make some clothing with his blood in the lining. This way the clothes can serve as a transmitter in case they're ever in danger. On day 47, one of Gourmet's mini scouts find that the elves didn't learn their lesson as they have returned. This time Gourmet just lets out a loud roar from within the cave and the elves are terrified if they can't even move. Gourmet doesn't even say a word when he emerges and simply captures them. The elf leader explains the caboose lack of respect wounded his pride and this has earned Gourmet more than one death. The other elves, however, apologize for not being able to stop their boss. Gourmet has come to a decision, but it's a harsh one. Their boss can already be considered dead, but the rest of them will have a chance to survive. Gourmet will have them face the goblins in a mock fight, and the elves that win will live. Gourmet's choice is a fair one as he declares that if they want to survive then they will have to fight with everything they have. In the end, out of the 23 elves, 6 of them were defeated. The 6 were all men, but Gourmet admits to himself that he tweaked the fights because he doesn't like seeing women get eliminated. Gourmet then snacks on the losers and he gets a lot more abilities. Gourmet then reveals to the survivors that they are now prisoners. They thought they would be set free, but Gourmet reminds them that they still try to eliminate the goblins. Gobji thinks that the elf prisoners will be a lot of fun, but Gourmet reminds him that there are rules against touching prisoners. Gobji vows to listen to his leader, but still begs as he is desperate. Gourmet then goes to give the final punishment to the leader of the elf unit. On day 48, we see that Gobkichi reaches level 100. On day 49, everyone is amazed to see that Gobkichi has evolved into a special variant. His dark red color is the result of a blessing from the demigod of flame, and his iron heart skin is a blessing from the demigod of war. Gobkichi explains that Gourmet hasn't had someone to spar with since he became an ogre, and Gobkichi was worried that he would never catch up to him. Gobkichi is different now though, so they spar outside. Gourmet still dominates the fight, but Gobkichi is surprisingly able to hold his own. Gourmet eventually wins the fight, but the match proved to him that Gobkichi really is his rival. That night, Gourmet was exhausted and he was met by a strange figure. This thing apologizes for some reason and gives Gourmet a gift as it's the least it can do. Gourmet wakes up but has no clue what just happened. On day 51, Gourmet wonders if Gobkichi inspired the others because they have 4 new hobgoblins. One is even suited to be a mage and another will be a cleric. The cleric's name is Gabji, and he promises to heal as many people as possible. Hobsei has evolved as well, growing into the Lord family as one half spell lord. Spell lords don't usually have markings like the one on her arms, and Gourmet notices that they look like the ones on his body. Hobsei is overflowing with mana, so she wants to test her strength outside. She demonstrates her immense power with an incredible fire attack, and explains that she can do another 20 of those at least. This is pretty incredible, but what's more surprising is that she is only a half spell lord right now, and she will likely evolve into a full spell lord next time. Gourmet gives some new gear to match her evolution, and she tells the jealous Hobsato that she will catch up soon enough. Gourmet realizes the evolutions have been happening pretty frequently, and he suspects that he is the reason why. A goblin's environment during their first month of life has a major effect on the rate of growth. It's pretty great to have everyone getting stronger, but Gourmet admits that not everyone in the village is so lucky. On day 52, the older generation of goblins express their displeasure. They have been trying their best to hang in there, but they are being left behind by all the young goblins. They have decided to leave the village and they are shocked when Gourmet decides not to end their lives for betraying him. Gourmet explains that they aren't stealing anything, so it's their choice if they want to leave. What's even more surprising is that Gourmet gives them a parting gift. It's a magical knife made of mithril with an incredibly sharp edge. On day 53, Gobre finds a human that had his life taken by an orc. There was no hope left for him, but after Gobre ate him he found that he had a very interesting ability. He hopes that using it well will be a way to honor the guy. This ability is called Monster Tamer. That night, Gobre was happier than ever when the alchemist reveals that she was able to make booze. On day 54, Gobre announces that the previous generation of goblins has left a village, and he offers to allow anyone else to join them. No one else wants to leave, so they have a toast. On day 55, the genius Gobre worked on producing earrings with his blood in them so they could serve as communication devices. On day 56, Gobre found that they work perfectly, so he made enough for everyone. On day 57, Gabby took down a trihorn and Gobre tested out his monster tamer ability that he got from the human. It worked perfectly and the trihorn became the first familiar. On day 55, we find that Gobre also has a gray bear familiar. The head of a black wolf pack became his pet and bodyguard for the human women. On day 59, Gobre experienced an incredible shock. The red-headed girl, who was really weak at first, has grown into a powerful warrior. While they are eating, Gabber gets surprised when she finds that she just got a new job. Moments later, she shows off her new hunting prowess, and Gobre explains that her new job is Shadow Soldier. She now needs to periodically eat monsters or she will die. However, it results in some astonishing growth. Later, Gobre was told that humans have been attacking goblins roaming the forest, so he realizes that it's nearly time for the war between them and the humans. On day 60, Gobre senses the kobolds are being chased by something that he can't even detect with his search ability. When the kobolds make it to the cave, they find that the pursuers are magically animated skeletons. Gobme's archers are just trying to shoot them down, but the arrows do nothing to them. There are an incredible amount of skeletons, so Gobkichi fears that things are going to get really bad. Gobre's search ability allows him to see one large signal behind all the skeletons, which is likely the one thing creating them. The others tried to fight off the skeletons and one of Hobsato's attacks missed. Gobre realized something. Cutting the skeletons doesn't work, but smashing them apart is incredibly effective. Everyone puts down their weapons and they start bashing all their opponents. There are still too many of these things, so Gobre decides that he will have to put an end to the battle. He begins a countdown in his head as he makes his way through the skeleton army. He ends up finishing 3 seconds early, but he manages to curse the monster that was creating all the skeletons. Eating this thing gives him the ability to summon lower undead and higher equipment materialization among other things. Afterwards, the kobolds apologize for their mistake. They accidentally dug into Velvet Treasury, which the goblins evaded earlier, and they awakened its guardian, the Greater Skeleton. In a last-ditch effort to survive, they ran to the cave that belongs to Gobre, who has become known as the terrifying Black Ogre. These kobolds now call Gobre their lord, but Gobre points out that he has eliminated plenty of their kind. They are incredibly grateful for him saving them though, and they understand that their strong devouring the weak is just natural law. They owe their lives to him, so they declare that what happens to them from now on is totally up to Gobre. Gobre understands and has their wounds looked at by their cleric. Gobre then takes a look around at everyone in his cave. He has no idea how it happened, but he has gathered a pretty interesting crowd. The story continues. We see on day 61 Gobre goes hunting with Gobkichi and they catch sight of 12 armed human soldiers. They follow them and Gobre uses his ability to eavesdrop on them. He learns that the humans are trying to kidnap the daughter of the eldest chief. Furthermore, one of the elves tipped them off. The chief's daughter returns from a festival, so the humans begin their attack. They eliminate a bunch of her guards and capture her. Gobre would feel bad just letting her be taken away, so he rescues the girl and takes the humans prisoner. On day 62, he learned that the human army would make their move in 20 days. Gobre eat all 12 humans and earned a ton of abilities. When the elf girl wakes up, she is terrified of Gobre. He notices that she has wings, which is uncommon for elves. Gobre tries to calm her down, but she freaks out as she assumes that he's going to do terrible things to her. She eventually relaxes a bit after drinking some calming tea, but she gets upset when Gobre reveals that he couldn't save her guards. She blames him for just watching them get attacked, but he explains that the human-elf war is none of his business. He reveals that there is a traitor among the elves, so she should be more upset about that. She sobs uncontrollably, so Gobre just tells her to get some rest before they take her home. That night, Gobre has to remind the old guy to keep his hands to himself. On day 63, they take the elf home. She explains that winds are something only highs have, but they usually hide them inside their bodies. They are not meant to be shown to others, but she is so inexperienced with them that they pop out sometimes. When they arrive at the elf village, Gourmet detects that 25 archers are aiming right at him with mithril arrowheads. Luckily, the chief's daughter explains that the ogre saved her life. The chief thanks them for saving his daughter, but Garbo explains that he didn't do it out of goodwill. He wants to reward and thinks about how he's letting the chief display well his kind means to him, so this will give Gourmet a chance to get a grasp on the chief's judgment. Gourmet was rewarded is something called the fail knot. It's a family treasure and magical item. The daughter is shocked that he would give this away, but the chief explains that it's a small price to pay for her safety. Gourmet is pleased with this, so in return he offers to give the elves information about the human army's movements. The two groups are now on good terms, and the elves gave the goblins a ton of mineral equipment. The chief wonders if they know anything about a group of their elite fighters that have gone missing, but Gourmet just pretends that he has no information on them. The chief even gives Gourmet some good liquor as a gift, so Gourmet vows to help them whenever they need. That night, Gourmet can't believe how delicious their alcohol is. On day 64, Gourmet's shocked to find that Gourmet has ranked up into a damper variant. On top of that, they ate new hobgoblins. Gourmet now has some new abilities as well. The god of ice has given her the ability to create and manipulate large amounts of ice. Her evil eyes ability can charm enemies into fighting amongst themselves. Gourmet seems to recognize her appearance, but he isn't sure why. Gourmet has also evolved and she is now half Earth Lord. Earth Lords have the ability to manipulate the ground. She can also make her body stronger and can use lightning magic to detect gems. As for Hobsato, she evolved into a half-bloody lord. They have the ability to control blood and make it into weapons. Also, all these of all goblins have tattoos for some reason and they're all in different locations. They see the tattoos give them power, so Gourmet hopes to learn more about them. Because of all their evolutions, Gobji decides to give them all new names. We then get a look at a chart which ranks the races in terms of power. Ogres rank 5th behind the dampers and the lords. Ogre knows that the elves will turn to them for help when their battle against the humans begins. He determined that they need as many assets as they can get, so he gave out communication earrings to new comrades. The elf girls they have captive refuse to wear them as it's extremely taboo for helps to decorate their ears. However, Ogre took some time to change their minds. Ogre then had these new comrades join them during training. He then used his summon lower undead ability. He summoned skeletons so they could do some practical sparring. Ogre made some changes and summoned them with some armor. The more armor skeleton has, the higher quality it tends to be. The elves struggled and lost most of their matches. Ogre was still pleased as the group is building trust. On day 65, Ogre has learned that if he uses less mana he's able to create regular skeletons, zombies, and other undead. He wondered what they would taste like, but he found he couldn't eat them. They are good for practicing though and for gaining experience. They are purified in seconds during the daylight, so not being able to use them during the day is a drag. Ogre's group now has over 100 members. The kobolds are in a pretty low position, so they will have to work harder than everyone else. After a fight, Ogre worries that Gobfa may be eating too much rotten meat, but she thinks it's the best. On day 66, Ogre Earthy closed the exit to the cave where the skeletons were coming out of. He also had the kobolds do some hunting with the goal of getting more wolf familiars. The kobolds worked faster than he expected, so they were able to collect 20 wolves. On their way home, they encountered the powerful board and Earthy destroys it. Later, the forger reveals that she upgraded the axe that Ogre damaged while fighting the red bear. The entire thing was modified with an alloy of spirit stone, iron, and mithril. Ogre was impressed, and this smith girl revealed that she was able to upgrade into an elemental smith. On day 67, Ogrekichu reveals that he has always had a crush on Earthy. Ogre was surprisingly already known, so Ogrekichi explains that he needs help as he doesn't know what to do. Ogre then comes up with a plan for him. He wants Ogrekichi to do something that night and he hopes to hear good news in the morning. That night, Ogrekichi tells Earthy how he feels and she seems to take it well. The next morning, Ogrekichi feels really light on his feet and stronger than ever before during a match against Ogre. Ogrekichi's managing to land more attacks than usual, but Ogre was glad that things went well for his buddy. It turns out that Earthy talked to Dami about it the day before, so Ogre and Dami sets a stage for them. Ogrekichi has been so strong and full of energy that Ogre had to replace himself with the black skeleton in their sparring match. After training Ogre's usual group when hunting, they found a lot of insect monsters that he has never seen before, so Ogre gained even more abilities. The most interesting of them was called Exoskeleton. Ogre used it and was shocked to find that he had become like one of those transforming superheroes. This new exoskeleton is extremely durable. It has the ability to repair itself and disperse impacts. It's a little too flashy for Ogre's liking, but Dami thinks it looks cool. Ogre tries to change back to his old clothes, but he just ends up being in his birthday suit. It turns out that his normal clothes were used to create the exoskeleton. It's a shame as he really liked his outfit since it was made from the red bear's pelt. Ogre then finds that this exoskeleton ability is even more amazing as it allows them to register 5 forms. One form used the red bear so he can register 4 others. Ogre gave it some thought and decided that he wants forms for aerial sea battles, so to start he registers 1 form from the insects so he could sprout wings and fly. It's pretty difficult to control though, so he would need some practice. It's raining pretty hard on day 69, so the redhead wants Ogre to spar with her. She has been making steady progress, so she has been asking for more training lately. Ogre then thinks about how she used to seem like a puppy before, but now she seems more like a grown Doberman. As for the Smith girl, she has been meeting with elves regularly so they can bring some ideas for new weapons. She is working on developing a repeating crossbow, but tests have gone so well that Ogre has asked her to move on to manufacturing them. Ogre then gave her some more materials and the hopes that she could make a new weapon for him. The chef sisters have also received a new title called head chef. Ogre had them try and recreate dishes from his past life like potato chips. After that, Ogre had a meeting with the alchemist about manufacturing magical items. She reveals an item she created from the black skeleton bones. It's a bone nail that has the ability to freeze whoever struck with it in place. The other girls catch Ogre hugging the alchemist, but he doesn't elaborate on what happens next. On day 70, some elves arrive on behalf of the chief elf. These elves passed by their old comrades on the way in, but Ogre's earrings had a disguise effect that made them appear to be dark elves. The elf kid reveals that the humans are making their move. The elves won't be able to handle them on their own, so they need Ogre's assistance. Price is of no concern to them as the chief just wants the enemy eliminated completely. However, their contract will be considered void if Ogre retreats. Ogre accepts the job, but explains that they will do it in his terms. Ogre instructs the kid to give the elf chief a bracelet so they can communicate information as a crucial weapon, and Ogre already has his blood minis covering the woods. Ogre gathers everyone and declares that it's time to put everything they have been working on to use. Starting on this day, they will become a mercenary company. They are now a professional force of fighters and everyone likes the idea. Ogre decides that they will be called the Parabellum Mercenary Company. He tells everyone to prepare for battle as it's time for their first job, and they all start chanting Parabellum. The story continues. On day 71, Ogre's Parabellum Company does their first job. They have a total of 36 members, and with Spellsay's sorcery their familiars can join them for a total number of 73. They deployed early in the morning based on information gathered by one of Ogre's minis. A barrier surrounds the human army base, but Ogre uses an attribute on a silver arm to destroy it. Once the barrier is down, Earthy uses her earth-controlling ability to close off any escape routes for the humans. Dummy and Spellsay then take point on a coordinated magical barrage. Ogre summons a horde of skeletons and follows up with some spears for good measure. However, he's impressed to find that all this isn't enough to eliminate the humans. Some Lady Knight is leading the defense, so Ogre introduces himself with a roar. The humans can tell that the Black Ogre is controlling the undead, so the Lady Knight declares that they will strike him down together. The human mage starts the attack and Ogre is impressed when the Lady Knight buffs her speed. He commands her ability to assess the situation and compliments the mine as she covers herself in. Even her strategy to gouge his heart out is a good one. However, it's not good enough as Ogre just pushes her back. Ogre then announces that he likes what he is seeing, so they all get to live as his prisoners. The Lady Knight refuses to listen and she just wants to end his life. Ogre compliments her, but she says that if he wants her as his prisoner then he will have to demonstrate his strength. If she is defeated, then he can do as he wishes. Ogre tells his group to eliminate everyone except for the Lady Knight, the sorcerer, the priestess, and the flaming swordswoman. They are to be taken alive, but the rest can be eliminated and eaten. Ogre then explains to us what happened next was a one-sided slaughter. Dummy Charmed Evil-Eyed caused a bunch of human soldiers to fight each other over her, and Ogre Kichi overpowered others. Blood Sato used her ability to turn blood into weapons, and Earthy followed up with her ability. Ultimately, they were able to defeat the enemy without a single loss. However, the Lady Knight did manage to reach Ogre just once. Her attack is hardly doing any damage to him, but just reaching him was impressive enough. Just then, the human mage prepares an attack and begs for the Lady Knight to get away. Spellsay can tell that the mage's attack is a 5th level spell and she fears that Ogre might not be able to withstand it. What makes it even worse is that the Lady Knight is sacrificing herself to make sure the Ogre is hit by the magic attack. The human mage apologizes as he can't hold back any longer and he releases it. However, Oguro declares that he has won as he does not intend on letting the Lady Knight die. The Lady Knight then watches in amazement as Oguro skillfully creates a magical shield. Spellsay is also all Oguro as this shield required him to combine 3rd level demise magic, a vacuum shield from his silver arm, and a few other abilities. Oguro had to use quite a bit, but he managed to stop the dragon spell attack. It's a complete victory for Oguro's group, and he declares that taking so many powerful fighters prisoner is a big deal. Oguro has a feast and gains an insane amount of abilities. Afterwards, the elves celebrate the victory. Oguro goes to see the new prisoners, but they're not doing so well. On day 72, Oguro explains that with his earrings in place, the humans couldn't lie or hide things anymore, so they obtained a lot of information. The elder elf requested this information and offered to pay in alcohol, so of course Oguro accepted. Using the item Oguro sent him, Oguro was able to pass on the information he received from the prisoners. This included the hidden routes that humans were using to ambush them next. The humans are planning to use their immense numbers to suppress the elves from different directions. Using this knowledge, Oguro's group went around the routes, laid out some traps, and waited in a trench. The human troops are led by fully armored knights and there are about 500 of them. On top of that, there are also 100 wizards. Oguro explains that it would be a long hard battle if the elves fought them head on. However, for Oguro and his group, this was pretty much just target practice. Oguro commenced the attack, so his company closed off escape routes and used boulders to drop their numbers. They went from 500 knights to 300 in an instant. Pit traps and arrows dwindled this number down till there were less than 100 knights left. Oguro is then impressed when the commanding knight tells his troops to build a wall with anything they can find. This caused the fight to be at a stalemate, so Oguro sent Ecchi to fight their commander. The humans of course fought back, but Oguro sent in enough warriors to make sure every knight was eliminated. The only question Oguro has is that Ecchi will be able to hold himself back. Ecchi starts destroying the commander and the commander can tell that everything about Ecchi is crazy. Oguro credits the commander for fighting back so well, but Ecchi eventually wins. Just like last time, Oguro has a feast and gains a bunch of abilities. Ecchi points out that the commander reminded him of Oguro, but Oguro doesn't see it. Just then Dami comes out of nowhere and reveals that she wants to bear Oguro's child. On day 74, the night prisoners consider being captured alive to be more humiliating than death. Their commander tells them to calm down though, since they have food and a place to sleep, so it's not that bad. The knights point out that he is from a commoner background, so he wouldn't understand and this whole prisoner thing as a disgrace to nobles like them. Later, Oguro has the commander to tell him why the humans are attacking the elves. It turns out that the cause of this whole mess stems from a princess coming down with a rare disease that is fatal in 99% of cases. She has been thrown to a king of another empire, so he decreed that a cure must be found. The humans then found out about the elves' secret medicine made with the blessing of the demigod of the forests. The start of this war all boils down to human greed. Later, Earthy is shocked when something happens during a mining session. Everyone wonders if they have come under attack, but it turns out that the water just created a hot spring. Oguro excitedly tells everyone that it boosts their healing ability and clears any status ailments. Aside from that, it's also great for the skin. Everyone that enjoys all the benefits of their new bath, and Oguro credits Earthy for digging it up. On day 75, Oguro had some concerns, so he thought of a new training strategy using the human prisoners. The idea, as have others work on their leadership skills by running a simulated battle with real soldiers. They gave orders to their appropriately outfitted soldiers, and they win if they are able to beat the leader of the opposing group. Oguro himself stands on the sideline and acts as a judge. Examples are Spellsay, issuing orders to defensive troops, and Dami ordering archers. Dami and Spellsay are looking pretty strong leadership-wise, but Ecchi and Bloodsato couldn't get any wins. The humans watching and can't even understand what's going on, as it doesn't make sense how goblins are practicing military maneuvers. The commander declares that he's tired of smacking bones around, as he was hoping to fight Oguro head-on. Oguro was amazed by his courage. This guy still wants to challenge him, even follow his commands are losing over and over again, so Oguro develops an appreciation for the guy he calls to Steel Knight. The guy has been shocked when Oguro covers him in mana. Oguro explains that he would question him if he didn't even the playing field a bit. Oguro releases some of his power, and the knight gets excited when this makes it clear that he's willing to fight. Oguro fights him, but the guy never even really had a chance to win, as Oguro absolutely destroys him. Oguro heals him, and Ecchi declares that he wants to fight the Steel Knight too. As Oguro watches them fight, he can tell that Ogre Kichi was also inspired by the Steel Knight spirit. Later, the guy explains that he came from a land where there are many demi-humans, and this is why it's easier for him to talk to them. The Steel Knight has noticed a wide range of races that Oguro has gathered, and he can tell that he organized them very well. He even begins to wonder if Oguro was sent by divine intervention. The guy then quits being a knight and declares that he wants to fight for Oguro. Oguro accepts, which no longer makes him a prisoner, and he decides to make good use of his talent. Oguro makes the redhead his apprentice and then shuts him to teach her unique human combat skills. Later, the elf elder agrees to take the wounded humans off their hands. Oguro would like to know about the secret medicine that humans are after, and the elder reveals that it's actually the medicine he gave Ogre before. The medicine is apparently a pretty big deal, and it can cure just about any illness. Oguro can't believe that the old elf gave him something so precious, but the elder explains that their laws only forbid them from sharing it with humans, not the ogre who saved his daughter. Oguro takes some medicine for the first time, and it gives him a strange feeling. It also results in him receiving a ton of strange healing-related abilities. Oguro gives one of the injured humans a drop of his blood, and the guy is shocked as he reveals that not only were his injuries healed, his back pain is gone too. Oguro is stunned as well, as he just now realizes that all this ability painting stuff is starting to get really crazy. He just completely healed this guy with one drop of blood, so he wonders what would happen with more. This kind of ability is on a whole another level, so Ogre wonders if he has powered up into some seriously crazy territory. The story continues. On day 81, Oguro's group prepares for their third clash with the human army. Oguro successfully snipes someone with this spear from 300 meters out, and then uses its ability to produce a limitless number of spears. The battle is over in just 20 minutes after the strike landed. Oguro then uses his slime to get rid of all the corpses. It's not a very pleasant sight, but everyone agrees the Blood Sato has a screw loose as she seems to be enjoying it. The next day, the elves whisper to each other as Oguro has brought humans with them to see the elder. Ogre assures the humans that the elder is nicer than the other elves, as this proves to be true when he serves them drinks some food. The elder is pleased that Ogre has pushed the human army to the brink, but he does not want to fight to drag on. For that reason, he wants to send his most capable troops into the next battle to help put a decisive end to the war. The elder is paying Oguro, so Oguro allows it. On the way back to the village, the Lady Knight points out the Oguro has her complete devotion, so she would like permission to fulfill her duty as the Knight of the Kingdom. She asks if he would be willing to send a secret elvish medicine to the kingdom to cure the princess. Oguro thinks about how having the kingdom in his department would be pretty beneficial, but there is a problem. 5 gods are worshipped in this world. They are incredibly powerful, so they tend to be the root of a lot of religious conflict. Oguro has the blessing of the god of the mice in origin, so someone like him provides the medicine. It could lead to even more problems. However, he seems to come up with an idea and tell the knight that he will consider it. Day 83 is the day of the final battle. There are 2,000 human soldiers, and including the elves that have joined them, Oguro's group is numbered as 650. This battle won't be like the others, as they will lose if they rush in. This is also because when Oguro's blood minis learned something that day before, the humans has sent an order of 8 heroic warriors they call the Rugald Orden. They are considered to be the ultimate fighting force, as all 8 of them have been blessed by the gods. Not only are they strong on their own, they also empower those who fight at their side. This means that the more allies they have, the more dangerous they are. Oguro wasn't even concerned when he learned about them though, and only wondered what they would taste like. It's time for battles. Oguro summoned to skeletons. Dami wonders if that's a good idea, since the sun will come out soon, but Oguro explains that he made some tweaks to the skeletons. He then instructs Ogre Kichi's group to take care of the perimeter, because he will be taking his skeletons straight to the center. Oguro initiates the battle, and the humans are shocked by how many skeletons there are. The humans know that they just have to wait out, as the sun will come up soon, and it eventually does. They are relieved as they think they will be able to push them back now, but they're stunned when the skeletons don't disappear. It turns out that Oguro coated the skeletons in slime, so they could fight during the day. The skeletons do a good job, but who sends them to help the others, as he has decided to finish off the soldiers that are left. As he powers up an incredible attack, Oguro thinks about how the entire army will fall apart when he eliminates the troops at the center. Nearby, one of the braves makes his approach, but he is annoyed to have to take part in such a boring war. He thinks the troops just need to fight harder, but they point out that they're not strong like him. the braver arrives to see Oguro powering up, so he realizes that the battle might actually be interesting. Their troops are shocked as they were to Oguro gather a bunch of water and blood, and he uses his attack to destroy everyone. The fight has made Oguro hungry, so he begins eating, but he's interrupted by the casual kid, who would like for them to fight next. Oguro was told about this person, so he knows that his name is Filippo, the bone bug brave. Filippo doesn't like it when someone he doesn't respect calls him by his title, so he gets really upset. This kid has some crazy eyes, so Oguro realizes that it means he was blessed by the god of demonic insects. The kid is upset with Oguro since he is the reason his vacation has been ruined. Oguro clearly sees that the kid is acting like a brat, but in reality the pressure emanating from his body makes it very clear that the kid can fight. Filippo can tell that Oguro has a blessing, so he wants to know which one it is, but Oguro doesn't say a word. Just then Filippo reveals that he has some bugs that use a mix of his blessing and necromancy. He tosses them everywhere and explains that he can make the corpses move around. They aren't zombies though, as they can move in the sun, so Oguro determines that the bugs are some kind of parasitic biological weapon. Filippo then declares that there is a big difference between braves and heroes. Heroes are much stronger individually, and the fighters they empower are also much stronger. However, heroes can only empower up to 10 people, braves on the other hand, can empower hundreds. Just then Oguro is shocked when Filippo transforms the corpses into monsters. Filippo has them attack, but Oguro quickly starts tearing them apart. Filippo is impressed as Oguro is able to smash them up like they are nothing, so he decides to take direct control over the monsters. The fight gets more difficult, so Filippo is now impressed by how fast Oguro can heal. Filippo prepares to use something Oguro won't be able to heal from, and so he summons a giant centipede. This thing crushes Oguro, so the kid explains that it's his favorite pet. It's also pretty famous, as it was classified as a natural disaster, and it's incredibly dangerous as its venom can cause death by organ paralysis with just the tiniest bit of exposure. The kid is then amazed, however, as Oguro has managed to survive for this long. Oguro's group becomes concerned as the venom has clearly started to take effect. No one can help though, as they are surrounded by enemies. Filippo praises his pet as it brings Oguro's lifeless body to him, and he sends it off to finish its other job. Filippo was sure that the fight is over now, so he thinks about dissecting Oguro's body to find out what blessings he had. He looks for someone to help move Oguro's body, but he is shocked when Oguro disappears. Just then Filippo just barely manages to dodge an attack from Oguro, and he wonders how he managed to survive. Oguro doesn't explain, so the kid assumes that he just used a fake corpse. Filippo's pet is already pretty far away, so he decides that it's time to use his first secret weapon. Philip would like them to formally introduce themselves first, but Oguro doesn't want them knowing who he is yet. Filippo will just introduces himself and explains that he is ranked 7th in the entire country. Oguro interrupts his little introduction with an attack, but the kid mutates and pushes him back. Filippo is upset now since Oguro forced him to use his second secret weapon before he could finish using the first one. That kid then completely transforms, but this just makes them look even more appetizing to Oguro. This is because he thinks that any good meal takes effort. The two begin fighting, but Filippo was shocked the ogre was able to dodge his attacks while fighting back. This is incredible to him, since Oguro hasn't even gone through an epic awakening. Oguro has no clue what that is, and Filippo refuses to tell him, since Oguro hasn't been cooperating. That's okay with the Oguro though, since he knows he can force the kid to talk. Oguro then explains that he has a bug transformation of his own, but Filippo doesn't believe him. Oguro uses his exoskeleton ability to transform, so Filippo was amazed that he always seems to have something up his sleeve. Oguro meets Filippo in the sky for the fight, and he sends a kid crashing to the ground. Oguro's group finishes up clearing an area, but Dami has a really bad feeling about something. Nearby, Filippo explains that he has had a lot of fun, but it's time to stop. Oguro won't let him get away, but the kid says it's not his choice. He takes off and declares that he's a really fast runner. Oguro chases after him, but he must stop to strike down the carcass that is able to move without Filippo. The kid manages to get away, but Oguro vows to eat him one day. Dami arrives, glad to see the Oguro is okay, and he explains that he sent a replica he created on a little mission while he was fighting Filippo. He applied his stealth ability to it, so it sneaks up to someone and tells them not to move an inch. The person it speaks to is the next king of the country, and current commander of its royal armed forces. The replica tells them that they have no desire to continue the war. The commander wonders who he is, but the replica just tells him to check his armor. The commander is then shocked when the replica explains that what's in the vial is the secret elvish medicine that will cure the princess. The replica and coldly points out that their troops cannot stop sacrificing their lives for nothings. Back with Oguro, he acknowledges that he could have easily eliminated the future king, but he knows that this would have caused the kingdom to send their full force to wipe out the elf. He decided against that in order to avoid an all-out war. Oguro then has Earthy set up a defensive wall, so they can get their injured to safety. Nearby, some humans are terrified when they run into Oguro, but he tells them to move along. The battle is over and no one else needs to lose their lives. He then thinks about how there are more important matters that need to be taken care of. That night, we learn that 30 Parabellum members lost their lives in battle. It's a very sad moment as they need to be put to rest properly. In this world, there is a risk that the dead will come back as zombies or ghosts, so they must be cremated. The others get emotional as they offer prayers to their brave warriors that fought hard to the very end. Everyone reacted in different ways, but Oguro didn't feel particularly sad. However, he did feel the need to cling to life as hard as he could, because they couldn't anymore. The story continues. On day 84, we learn that the recent battle has earned everyone a lot of high-quality experience, which led to a lot of new evolutions among Oguro's group. Hobji was doing a lot of healing and has evolved into a half-Saint Lord. He can now use a unique half-Saint Lord ability called Shield Field. It's even durable enough to withstand 20 strikes from Oguro. Hobfu has become a ghoul because of her love for spoiled food. She has been eating nothing but zombies, and you are what you eat. She excitedly talks about the guys, and Oguro fears what you might be thinking. Just then Oguro was startled by Hobmi's non-face eyes, so he asks her to keep them closed. She was never good at direct combat, and now she has become a Dotomiki, a race that excels in combat support by using illusory magic. She has some useful abilities, and Oguro's sure that she will win. They outperform even him in terms of intel gathering. Things are going so well that even some of their weaker hobgoblins have ranked up to become ogres. This group surprisingly vows to get stronger in honor of those that sacrifice their lives during battle. Oguro is surprised because the goblins are egotistical by nature, but these guys are mourning their lost comrades and using that as motivation. The leader of the kobolds has also leveled up to become a warrior kobolds. This guy claims have been granted a ferocious appearance, just like Oguro, but Oguro thinks he looks more like a mafia boss that has just discovered cosplay. He has also received the true name and is now called Suji. Old Man Gobji explains that true names are special names that individuals of a certain level are granted. If an enemy learns someone's true name, they can cast certain spells like curses on that person. Telling others their true name is a bad idea and would be like committing self-unalive. The kobold's leader decided to share his with Oguro as a sign of his undying loyalty, so Oguro decides to call him Makita from now on. Oguro thinks about what he should do with their prisoners and ultimately decides to let them go free. Anyone who doesn't have anywhere else to go are allowed to join Oguro's group on a provisional basis. Some prisoners take great offense to this since they feel like they're cut above the rest, but being a provisional member would mean that they are lower than a goblin. An argument breaks out as the goblins are insulted by the statement. Oguro acknowledges that the 3 prisoners are stronger than goblins, but he trusts the goblins, who have been training there since birth, more than some randoms that just showed up recently. Oguro tells the 3 that they can just leave, but they would rather prove themselves. They want to fight the leader of the mercenary group, and if they win they want control of it. The guy mistakenly thought that Dami was their leader, and they think it's laughable that an ogre like Oguro is actually their leader. Oguro must calm Dami down, and he agrees to humor these guys. Oguro wants to fight 2 of them at once, so they call him cocky. Everyone is then amazed as they show off their weapons, and the out-of-control Gobji arrives to watch the fight. He explains that they're using orb weapons, and some of the other members might be able to use them as well. Orb weapons give their users a significant boost in power, and repair themselves when damaged. Oguro instantly wipes out the attackers and beats up any other challengers. Just then everyone is shocked as Oguro gets knocked back. This ape-looking dude declares that he's the leader now, but Oguro sent him flying. Oguro explained that the guy did a good job sneaking up on him, so he let him land his attack. Only the half-dampier guy remains, but he's nowhere to be found. Oguro eventually finds the guy asking Dami to become his wife. Oguro beats him relentlessly, and he thinks about how he hitting on Dami right in front of him has earned him a worse beat. There are some other powerful-looking races among the provisional members, but they're grateful to have been free from slavery. Oguro gave the damper guy some blood to heal him, but this made the guy pledge his loyalty and things got awkward. At the end of all this, Oguro's group ended up with 50 more provisional members. The provisional members spar against some of Oguro's undead, and we learn that Oguro put Ogre Kichi in charge of training them. That's not all that's going on, as Oguro has found some new smiths to work with the smith girl. The little guys point out that she still has a lot to learn, but they see potential in her. The smith girl doesn't like them very much, but dwarven smithing is top tier in this world. They might even be able to make mithril equipment, so Oguro as the smith girl to try and make it work. Oguro learned an ability recently called synthesis. He does an experiment with an orb and it works like a charm. He then used Chaos of the Dead to produce a monster, but it wouldn't listen to his orders and it went wild, so he had to destroy it. He then used synthesis to cook up new abilities. He combined the abilities weakness to sunlight and weakness to light damage to create weakness to sunlight damage, but he regretted it. On day 85, they began renovating their base. They prioritized the hot springs so they could offer it as a service to their elven allies. On day 86, Oguro uses the provisional members to test out synthesized abilities. This way there will be less issues in case of an accidental fatality, but Oguro thinks he might have overdone things. On day 87, the dwarf smith gives Oguro with their finest work. It's a special warhammer, but Oguro couldn't understand their explanation about what makes it special. Things have changed so much since Oguro was born, as he now needs to suppress his presence when walking through the woods, otherwise creatures run away from him. Oguro meets with Tedride again to pick something up, but the other girls tell him that he will pay dearly when it becomes clear that he was up to no good. On day 88, Oguro announces that they will be planting some crops. What he picked up from Dryad was a collection of magical seeds for fruits and vegetables. They grow faster than the natural kind, along with tasting better and being more nutritious. On day 89, some provisional recruits return home. Prisoners of noble birth return home as well, but Dami brainwashed them first. This means that they now have spies to gather information inside the kingdom and the empire. The human army has begun to withdraw, so the elf elder thanks Oguro for his help. He throws a banquet to celebrate, but Oguro wonders if it was really a good idea for him to be invited. The elder acknowledges that the rules require them to shun anyone outside their village, but Oguro and his people are their friends. The elder explains that his younger brother broke their code to leave the force a long time ago, in search of a link to the outside world. The elder just wanted to ensure that their forest would be a safe place for him to return to, and he has only been able to do that thanks to Oguro. All the elves become emotional and the celebration continues. Upon returning to their base, Earthy had dug up the last of the spirit stones. As a sign of gratitude to Velvet and the carbuncle, Oguro decides to eat this last batch of spirit stone. Of course, doing so grants him a bunch of abilities. Afterwards, Oguro got to work on some heavy-duty crafting. He fused the bones of black skeletons together, and added some replica material as an anti-sunlight measure. This allowed him to create what he calls a skeleton centipede. Oguro plans to use it as a vehicle, as he wants to take the human girls to a human town. The human girls fear that they're being kicked out, but Oguro just reminds them that he promised to return them home when they first met, even if they decide to stay, but Oguro wants them to head back before making that call. On day 91, the construction of the improved hot spring was complete. The knight can tell that the redhead is distracted while training, and she reveals that she's worried about having to go back to a human town. The knight wants to stay out of it, but he assures her by saying that Oguro doesn't seem to be in any rush to get rid of her. On day 92, the girls collect some stuff to sell in town. In this moment, Oguro realizes that having these girls around to lend them the knowledge that he is lacking is a true blessing. On day 93, a party is held to help everyone get to know each other. Their trio from before are some obnoxious drunks, as they say that they will do whatever they want when Oguro goes into town, but they do inform Oguro of something. Their kingdom and empire both have disdain for demi-humans, so they will need someone from a noble family to help get them in. The obnoxious red guy offers the help, but Oguro declines. On day 94, Oguro breaks everyone up into 4 groups. Their goal is to gather until on the outside world, handle any trouble amongst themselves, and try to level up. However, most importantly, Oguro wants them to make sure that none of them die. On day 95, everyone prepares to depart. Everyone chose their quirky personalities, and Oguro tells Ogre Kichi not to run off on his own. With that, all the groups head out. Oguro thinks about how much he has learned living in the forest, but he knows that he must move forward. This is because there is still a lot of powerful prey out in the world just waiting for him to eat them. The story continues. On day 102, Oguro and the girls arrive at Garrison City. The people there freak out because they aren't used to seeing an ogre leading a bunch of humans, but the twins explain everything. Ogre then tells the girls that they're supposed to spend the time they spend in the city deciding if they want to live there again or go with him. The redhead then takes Ogre to the guild while the other girl sells some goods. Ogre ran into some trouble, but he just made the trouble faint. After registering as an adventurer, the group went shopping. The girls went to look for clothes, but Ogre decided to gather information. He disguises himself as a human and changes into the form that he used to have in his past life. As he walks through the city, he overhears a lot of people talking about him as a tattooed ogre. Ogre seem to have a bad image, so Ogre determined that they won't be able to continue their activities as a mercenary group for the time being. Moments later, some thugs around Ogre, he takes these fools out and devours them to earn some nice abilities. Ogre notices that they were all wearing matching rings, so he wonders if they're part of a big organization. Nearby he hears some guy paying a ransom to have a girl freed. The thugs he is talking to demand more money and Ogre notices that they're wearing the same rings. The guy figures he will have to fight them and Ogre realizes how bad the situation will get when he hears that the girl he's trying to save is actually a princess. The thugs end up nearly eliminating the guy, but Ogre knocks them out. He also attached his blood clones to them so that he could track them later. The guy is furious that Ogre let the criminals live, but Ogre reminds him that he just saved his life. Ogre leaves his mercenary card with the guy so he can call them if he ever needs help. Ogre shows him his ogre form, but tells the guy not to say a word about what happened. That night, the guy meets with Ogre and reveals that the princess being in the city was supposed to be a secret, but she snuck away from her inn. She was then found and taken by an organization. The guy is then shocked when Ogre reveals that he already knows where their hideout is. They go there and Ogre takes out all the thieves and retrieves the princess. As they bring the hideout down, Ogre said that he found evidence showing that the kidnapping was planned by the princess herself. The guy wants to report this back to the kingdom, but Genki appears out of nowhere to cast a spell on him. He makes the guy think that something really bad will happen if he reveals what really happened here. Instead, he will come up with a story with the princess and go on living a peaceful life. On day 103, Ogre is informed that newborn goblins and hobgoblins have been delivered. Ogre is glad that the next generation has been born, but he still needs to hear the responses from the girls before he leaves the city. When he goes to speak with the girls, they all say that he didn't even need to ask and they already packed their things to go with Ogre. The chefs still have a lot of recipes to try, and the nerd girl still needs to make the perfect alcoholic drink for Ogre. The redhead and the smith have their reasons for returning as well, so Ogre thanks them. Later, Princess Rebelia introduces herself and the guy explains that she demanded that they find the ogre who saved her so she could thank him. Rebelia has heard that Ogre leads a mercenary group, so she has a job for him. She wants them to escort her back to the royal capital. Ogre is shocked by her tone, and he wonders if this strange power of hers is similar to charm. Ogre refuses to escort her and points out that she has plenty of guards. Rebelia says that they're all boring, so Ogre angrily explains that they have other things they need to do. Ogre tries to scold her for sneaking away from her inn, but it doesn't work and it just makes her like them even more. The guy reveals that they would be rewarded with the gold plate for escorting the princess, and the girls insist that Ogre take the job. A gold plate is worth 1 million gold, which is way more than they would get for a normal job. Their obsession with money bothers Ogre, but he's interested in seeing the royal capital, so he takes the job. Afterwards, Ogre admits that he's also excited about the prize money. The princess reveals that she ran away from her guards again, so Ogre scolds the guy. Unfortunately, he explains that the princess is stubborn. This is pretty bad, since the guards are probably searching for Rebelia, and if she is found with Ogre they will probably mistake him as a kidnapper. They go on their journey anyway and Ogre answers all Rebelia's questions. He explains that they're riding on a skeleton centipede. Ogre then tells her that some nearby animals are called buffalo, they have good quality meat and their horns can be sold for a lot of money. The group takes out some of the buffalo and they have a feast. That isn't all, as they use one of the buffalo to disguise their way too obvious skeleton centipede as a carriage. The redhead takes out a rabbit and snacks on it. She gains some abilities and Ogre explains that her power doesn't come out unless she does that. The guy gets concerned when the princess gets really careless and Ogre must save her. It turns out he has to save her a lot, including when she sneaks up on the chefs who are holding knives. It's pretty bad, so he scolds her. On day 104, they find a nest of turtle snakes. They work together to capture these animals and they prepare for another meal. The princess apologizes to this chest for her behavior and offers to help them make the meal. Everyone then enjoys the grilled turtle snakes. As their journey continues, Oguro notices that Rebellia is extremely curious. Even if she knows that something is really dangerous, she can't help but investigate. Oguro takes an interest in the knight, so he allows them to join their morning training. The princess wants to join as well, but she is told that the training is not just some game. She insists though, so Oguro allows her to join them. Oguro changes the knight until he faints, and he is impressed by the princess as she seriously practices her sword swings. That night, they plan their route for the next day. The path along the cliff is the shortest, but it's also the most dangerous. It's dangerous because of the fillets eagles that reside there. They are the strongest race around the mountain path. They are extremely fast, and they also secrete poison from their claws. Even worse, the boss-class Jade Eagle has a blessing power and will hunt them down if they encounter one. Just then everyone is shocked when Oguro announces that they will hunt down the Jade Eagle. The hunt goes down the next day, and the captured eagles become their breakfast. Moments later, Oguro realizes that things are going to get really bad, so he tells the others to stay where they are. Everyone gets really worried, so Oguro apologizes because he decided a long time ago to eat as many first encountered enemies as he can. Later, everyone gets even more worried as Oguro has been fighting the beast for over an hour. Dami is sure that Oguro is fine, and she explains that he wants to feed a red bear after an all-night battle. The red guy points out that this eagle is far more dangerous, and he says that they need to think about running away after Oguro gets eliminated. Dami refuses to run and simply declares that she will stay with the Oguro no matter what happens. Just then things become quiet and everyone fears that Oguro has lost his life when they see his arm on the ground. Oguro is alive, but in really bad shape, so the newest members determine that defeating the eagle is impossible and they need to run. The situation looks really bad, but Oguro decides he has to get serious. Everyone is shocked when he eats his own arm and thanks the eagle for helping him train. He acknowledges its strength and puts on his armor. Oguro strangles the giant bird with this thread so it can no longer escape. With just one attack, Oguro sends the eagle crashing to the ground. He thought it would die instantly, but the blessed have strong vitality. Just then Oguro discovers a stone buried beneath the Jade Eagle's heart. The girls explain that it's extremely rare and they tell Oguro not to eat it. They want to use it for something because it's a material for making powerful weapons. The group then feasts some cooked Jade Eagle and Oguro gets even more abilities. Oguro uses the bird for another exoskeleton slot and he gets some feathered wings. Just then the princess demands to know why Oguro eats all the monsters he encounters. Oguro had been asked that question several times in his previous life, and his answer is still the same. He eats it because he killed it, and he kills for the sake of living. If someone dies because of something he was involved with, he eats it as much as he can to make up for it. Everyone he told this to in his previous life was shocked, but the princess just falls silent. He wonders what she is thinking, and they continue on their journey. The story continues. On day 109, our group arrives at a village and all the villagers are terrified of Oguro. In villages that are only humans, Oguro has heard that they hate demi-humans. However, Rebellia shows her family crest to calm everyone down. The group is then welcomed to the village and taken to their most popular spot, the large waterfall. After spending the day at a hot spring, the village has a celebration. To thank them for their hospitality, Oguro shares alcohol with the villagers. One villager gets a little too handsy, so he feels Dami's wrath. To liven things up a bit, Oguro decides to have a drinking competition and the winner will receive 4 silver plates as a reward. Unfortunately for the villagers, Oguro can't get drunk, so they all pass out trying to be Oguro. Oguro snacks on some fish and gains some abilities. On day 110, they leave the village and Oguro notices that the twins look a bit pale. They explain that it's because they cooked for so many people during the festival, so Oguro offers to do the cooking for the day so they can rest. On day 111, everyone is shocked and they tell Oguro to stop the centipede. It turns out that the twins are pregnant with Oguro's children. Oguro immediately contacts Gabji because he doesn't know what to do. The twin stomachs got big instantly, so Oguro wonders if it would be okay to send them back to the village. Unfortunately, Gabji explains that they will make it in time. Ogre children steal nutrition from their mother's belly and are born immediately. If the twins were ogres then it would be fine, but human bodies are just too small. If they don't get enough nutrition, the mother's bellies might tear. There's no time to make it back to the village, so Oguro decides to search for a nearby place for them to give birth. The twins are in a lot of pain, but they tell Oguro not to worry and they promise to give birth to his children soon. Moments later though, everyone becomes worried when they see that the twins are starting to look too thin, they are becoming very weak and the alchemist's life potion doesn't work on them. They desperately need something with higher nutritional content to sustain them. Just then Oguro comes up with an idea. He knows that it will be difficult for the twins, but there aren't many options. Oguro tears off his own arm and tells them to eat his flesh. Everyone is shocked, but this is the only way to supply them with the energy they need. There's no time to cook it, so they will have to eat it raw. Their twins refuse to let Oguro go through the pain, but the others point out that he can just regenerate. The girls still refuse, so Oguro bites his own flesh and feed it to them himself. He declares that they can hate him if they want afterwards, but he refuses to let them and their children pass away. After feeding them, Oguro finds a suitable cave. There are some bears in it, but Oguro has the three lords eliminate them. Oguro uses some of his abilities to make beds, but the girls are getting so big that they look like they're going to pop. Oguro uses his healing ability with some anesthesia to ease their pain, but he doesn't know how long it will last. Eventually, the older sister's belly stops growing and we see the Oguro using one of his blood minis to transmit what's going on to Seiji. Oguro says that what he's about to do will be useful for their base, so he wants Seiji watch closely. He puts one of the twins to sleep and uses an ability to create a scalpel. He reminds himself to keep healing and sedating and Oguro begins the procedure. A while later, we see that the twins gave birth to a baby boy and a baby girl. Thanks to Oguro's blood and abilities, the entire procedure was a success and the twins' wounds have already healed. Oguro is glad that he didn't lose the twins and proud to be a father. The princess holds one and really says that the babies look like monkeys, but they're still cute. Just then Gabji requests to see the babies, as he assumes that they might be ogre mixed blood. This is confirmed as they both have horns, so the Gabji explains that Oguro can remove the horns while they're still babies. According to Gabji, when a female human gives birth to a demi-human child, it will be the same race as the father. However, in 1 in a million cases, a special race called mixed blood is born. They possess great power, but both races will see them as unpleasant. The best they will be able to do is live as harmful monsters. Oguro appreciates all the knowledge Gabji has given him, but this time Oguro has made his own decision. If his children end up becoming monsters because everyone hates them, then he will still shower them with love. Seiji, he assures Oguro that everyone in Parabellum feels the same way. The other strange thing about his children is that they have orbs on their bodies. Oguro assumes that it's because he has a lot of orbs and dragon spheres inside his body. They decide to name their daughter Oro and the son Argento, their twins, whose names are Felicia and Alma, doing well, and now we will thank them for bearing his children. He wants to live together with them as family from now on, and they feel the same way. On day 112, Oguro wants to find a strong monster that he has never seen before, so he goes exploring alone. After a while he encounters a beast that he decides to call a white stag. Oguro can tell that it's a boss class just by looking at it, and even if he goes all out, there's only a 30% chance that he would win. Oguro hasn't felt the fear of death in a really long time, but this just gets him excited. Oguro transforms, but he is confused when the beast doesn't attack him. Just then the monster sheds its antlers and runs off. Oguro thinks about eating them to gain some awesome abilities, but his intuition tells him that he should give them to his children instead. After some more exploring, Oguro encounters a joint force consisting of humans and demi-humans. They're in a battle and Oguro can tell that they have a lot of experience. As he watches, it becomes pretty clear that they are the strongest groups Oguro has ever seen in this world. However, their target is a boss monster and it's putting up a good fight. The group has taken out several beasts, but the boss prepares to end the fight with his most powerful magic attack. Just then this immensely powerful beast gets blown to bits by Oguro and his new arm weapon. Oguro was a bit nervous to use that attack, but he wanted to save the group so he could fight them himself. The problem now though, is that he isn't sure if you can fit the giant monster in his storage. It will fit, so he turns his attention to the group. One human stands to protect them and this makes Oguro think about something. He wonders if this guy would have been able to beat the boss if he didn't destroy. Oguro isn't sure why, but this guy is admitting something that makes him sure that he would have won against the boss. Just then Oguro comments a guy on doing a good job during the fight. Oguro has decided not to eat them and instead just pretends that he was sent by someone to defeat the boss monster. He requests that they let him take the monster and in return, he offers to heal their wounds. They agree, so Oguro takes the monster corpse and they part ways. The guy is amazed at a creature like Oguro exists. He could tell that Oguro hasn't reached epic level yet, but for some reason he can't move at all. Some girl wonders if it's because of his injuries, but it's not, it's actually out of fear. The guy has an ability called Voice of Death, and it showed them the worst outcome of what could have happened. If they tried to fight Oguro, then they all would have lost their life. After eating the boss and getting more abilities, and Oguro eventually returns to the cave, his children can walk already and they welcome Oguro home, so Oguro calls them geniuses. Oguro feeds them the stag's horn, and he can tell that their abilities improve significantly. Oguro and the redhead tried to but Oguro shock when they gained 2 abilities with strange symbols in them. It only took a small fragment of the horn to do this, so Oguro fears that he made a big mistake this time. It's pretty clear that that white stag is not a creature he could fight right now. That night, Oguro's level once again exceeds the specified value, and all requirements have been filled, so another evolution becomes available to him. He can now evolve into an extinct species called an Apostle Lord. Oguro decides to just do it, and he receives a true name, Yatendoji. He's also supposed to get some abilities, but the conditions for some of them haven't been met. They will only be granted once the conditions are met. On top of that, aides of Oguro's subordinates are appointed as demon generals. The next morning, everyone shocks to see Oguro's new evolution. The story continues. On day 114, Oguro learns that the blacksmith and the alchemist are both pregnant. Oguro decides to find a place with water, so the princess tells the girls to just hold on for a bit longer. This is a big deal, but Oguro says that at least he knows what to do this time. A while later, Emery and Spinel have the babies. The human female baby's named Nicola, and the high ogre male baby gets named Oniwaka. On day 115, the princess changes into disguise. They are near the royal capital, so she doesn't disguise herself. There would be a huge uproar. Oguro instructs the mothers to take a break, and he sends the other girls to gather information at the Adventurers Guild. At the guild, some random still Oguro that he looks really strong, and they ask to spar with him. Fighting them would be too easy for Oguro, so he offers to let them fight the nobles instead. The nobles are shocked, and Oguro even offers to give the adventurers 5 silver plates as a prize for winning. The nobles battle it out with the adventurers, and Oguro can tell that Dami he wants to participate. She's only allowed to watch though, and the session ends as the adventurers can't take anymore. Janky breaks down in tears after seeing how strong they have become, but the others point out that there's no reason to cry. Their entire goal was to get stronger, and this is just the beginning. Oguro is impressed by them, so he allows them to join Parabellum. Oguro then does a bit of shopping, and he buys a rare magic item that allows someone to print any scenery they see. It sounds pretty complicated, but it's actually just what was called a camera in Oguro's old world. Of course, he put the camera to good use immediately as he took tons of pictures of his kids. That night, Oguro thinks about how they're only a couple days away from reaching their destination, and he wonders what kind of enemy awaits them there. Also, he has been so busy that he hasn't had enough time to contact the other group. Bloodsato leads Group 3, and she explains that Spellsay about a ton of spell books. Oguro doesn't remember giving them much money, but Spellsay explains that they have been capturing bandits and kidnappers. They take all their money so they don't have to worry about any travel expenses. The Dotami leads the 5th group, and she is hard at work gathering information. Oguro praises her for a job well done and reminds her to rest some time. The 4th group doesn't have a leader, so they argue over everything. Oguro decides that they need a leader, but Hobrin shocked to hear that it's her. She tries to object, but Oguro's decision has been made. Oguro prepares to contact the 2nd group, which is led by Ogre Kichi, but he gets a shocking vision. Dami wonders what is wrong, and Oguro says that he is dead in this vision. On day 116, Oguro tells the princess that they will be going a different way. The others know about his vision where he loses his life, and they explain that it must have been a foresight dream. Dami doesn't want to hear any talk of it, but Oguro needs to go to the place in his vision to see if his vision is real. It will take 2 days to get to this location, and they might be a bit late in reaching the royal capital. The princess surprisingly decides to allow the detour and declares that they will head to Mei's City. On day 117, Oguro explains that they will reach Mei's City in 1 more day. Everyone enjoys the presence of the children, but the princess points out that one isn't even walking at all. This is because this one is a human, and it usually takes around 1 year to begin walking. Up front, Dami stares at her necklace. Oguro can't believe that she still has it, so Dami points out that it's the necklace the Oguro gave her when they were still goblins. It was just 4 months ago, but the necklace still gives her a lot of nostalgia. She then says that a lot has happened since then. They fought humans as mercenaries, and now they are bodyguards for a human princess. On top of that, Oguro is always evolving and gradually becoming manlier. Dami is disappointed to still just be a dampier, but what's worse is that she still doesn't have a baby from the person she loves the most. Oguro assures her that he will stay by her side and says that even if she doesn't have any of his kids, his feelings for her won't change. On day 118, they arrive at Maze City. Overkichi's group should be in the dungeon they find, but they hear arguing coming from inside. Some adventurers run out and tell Oguro to run as well. There is a terrible monster inside called miniatures, and not even a lord can beat it. Oguro was told before coming to the dungeon that several parties want to exterminate them, but none have returned. Just then Overkichi and Earthy emerge from the dungeon. They are really big now, and Overkichi points out that Oguro has gotten smaller since the last time they saw each other. These two giants rescue the adventurers and explain the situation to Oguro. In the deepest part of the dungeon, a rare monster called Mind Mirror has appeared. This monster is said to copy the strongest opponent that the person facing it holds dearly in their heart, and Overkichi's case this was Oguro, so Overkichi got beaten up. However, this caused Overkichi to receive the blessings of the demigod of lightning and he evolved. He then destroyed the mirror version of Oguro, which explains the vision Oguro had. Overkichi and Earthy are now minotaurs. Oguro is relieved to see that everything is going well and he decides to stay in Maze City for the night. Just then Overkichi asks for Oguro to have a match against him. Oguro says that he hasn't changed at all and he expected him to say that. Moments later, tons of people gather to watch the fight. The princess can't understand why friends would fight each other, so Dami explains it to her. Ever since they were born into this world, they have always wanted power stronger than even that of their own friends. It's been a month since her last match, but Oguro was impressed to see how much stronger Overkichi has gotten. That isn't all, as his X and shields have been enhanced as well. Overkichi explains that he has fought a lot of extremely powerful monsters in the dungeon, and he polished his strength and fighting technique. He worked very hard, and it was all for the purpose of becoming strong enough to defeat Oguro. Overkichi explains that winning against Oguro would make them equal, and this would allow them to walk together as true friends. Overkichi declares that it's time to fight, and Oguro tells him to give it all he's got. The two warriors charge at each other and immense power bursts out as they clash. Oguro can tell the Overkichi's axe is extremely heavy and determines that no one else would be able to lift it. Oguro is shocked to see the Overkichi is fast too, and he just manages to dodge his next attack. Everyone watches in amazement because the blessings have allowed Overkichi to control fire and lightning simultaneously. Oguro has lightning resistance, but he can't resist fire with his current ability. In terms of control, Overkichi's above him, so Oguro gets really excited to see that these are the results of Overkichi's determination. They charge at each other again, and Oguro tells Overkichi to always be mindful of his surroundings. Oguro gets upset with himself, though, since his training habit made him give Overkichi a piece of advice. Oguro knows Overkichi's current eye structure won't allow him to look at his back, so Oguro attacks him from behind with some water. Overkichi manages to defend it off, and Oguro is shocked when he creates an illusion using his shield. Oguro gets really serious and prepares to use something that he never thought he would have to use against a friend. It's an ability that amplifies all of his abilities. This allows Oguro to overpower Overkichi, and he begins to take control of the fight. He uses an attack called the Dance of 1000 Spears, but Overkichi engulfs himself in flames. Overkichi takes to the sky, but Oguro points out that he won't be able to dodge freely up there. Oguro is shocked though when Overkichi gets on his shield, and Oguro wonders if that's even allowed. Just then Overkichi unleashes an incredible amount of power, but Oguro calls him a fool and tells him that he needs to think about his output. Overkichi just keeps releasing power, and all the spectators can only wonder what is happening, as the arena they are fighting in is covered in flames. Overkichi abruptly stops, and Oguro explains that he lost to anger and lost his bearing of power. Overkichi stopped because he realized that he might hurt his nearby friends. Oguro is impressed by the fire and lightning that Overkichi released, but it was very reckless. Oguro is fine because no matter the damage he takes he can heal fast, but this isn't true for the spectators. Oguro is furious about Overkichi putting everyone in danger and demands that Overkichi cool his head for once. Oguro teaches him a lesson and unleashes an incredibly powerful punch. Oguro gets a sense of nostalgia himself as he remembers when he trained Overkichi for the first time. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.